We look at the fibre industry first. That's a really interesting one because forestry has been a large part of our export industry for a long time, but it's become very much dominated by Pinus radiata, by pine forests. And one of the key dangers there is biosecurity risks. And again, as temperatures start to rise, the likelihood of new insect vectors coming into the country is likely to increase. So we've been lucky so far that we haven't had a major outbreak of something like pine pitch canker, which could potentially devastate our pine forests. So that monoculture that we have at the moment is really not that sustainable in the long run. And we also still haven't got to the stage with our fibre industry where we're really adding value to that produce by making high value products from pine trees. We're still exporting a lot of the raw logs. So one of the things that a number of people have been advocating is that we try and go back to much more of a mixed forestry system, and particularly look to some of our indigenous species, which are actually fabulous timber resources, and we've just not been planting them in the last 50 years. So might need to rethink how we do forestry and start to have more mixed forestry. If we can just find higher value products for pine trees, at least we can still concentrate on some of them. At the moment, of course, our fibre industry is very caught up in the emissions trading system, and there will be credits available and therefore an income available for planting new forests, whether it's pine trees or indigenous forests, so that might actually help to keep that industry growing. Okay, well, in the food industry, I think it really is actually in going back to, and I talk about going back because it almost is like going back to the time when agriculture was based on sort of like a rotation of crops, where you didn't continually grow the same crops year in, year out, putting nutrients into the soil, allowing some of the products to then leach out into the waterways. So you go back to a system where you're trying to build up the carbon content of the soil, and you can do that. So you can actually grow grass and still build up the soil carbon content at the same time. But that will require research and new management methods, things that we've actually forgotten how to do, really. Farmers genuinely would like to look after the soil. It's not that, and the land. It's not that they want to sort of destroy the land, because often it's in their families for several generations, and they want their kids and grandkids to continue farming for a living. But the current system we have of production is sort of forcing people into farming practices which are not sustainable. So they need to take a step back and see how they can build up their soil carbon, see how they can reduce their nitrogen and phosphorus inputs, and look at their energy use, because again, energy in transport and energy in machinery is huge, and there's many ways that you can actually generate energy yourself on a farm, so you can become more self-reliant and not so reliant on external requirements. Huge cost savings to be made there. I think farmers in New Zealand have a really strong feeling about private property rights, and you hear that all the time, and federated farmers are saying you can't make us do this or that, and that's a bit unfortunate, because while it is their land, it's also land that belongs to all New Zealanders, and what people do on their land will have a direct impact on what happens outside of their land, so on rivers, on the environment in general, even adding to the greenhouse gas burden for New Zealand. So I think we need to get past that, this is my land and don't tell me what to do about it. If farmers want to become more environmentally responsible and really sustainable, they need to be thinking about the impacts they're having and how they can reduce those impacts and probably save money at the same time and be more resilient in the long run. So there's a lot they can do, but we've lost much of that learning. There's some research and learning that has to be regained about how you look after your land without depending on the sort of industrialised systems that we've come to use in the last 50, 100 years.
Start the debate and discussion now about economic alternatives. Stop accepting that the way we live now is something we cannot change, because we can.